Tensions are rising between Trump and his base, and it has been hilarious to watch. So let's dive into a little bit of it. Serial plagiarist Benny Johnson is one of the many intellectual powerhouses that make up the right-wing media ecosphere. And you too can be a right-wing influencer, so long as you have the generic face of a CBS sitcom star, access to decent lighting, and a willingness to trade your scruples for rubles. And it seems like a pretty sweet gig until you realize that the adjudicated blank and the convicted felon you helped elect might be, I don't know, bad. So let's watch Benny Johnson slowly try to process this post made by Trump about Epstein on Truth Social, because he looks like he's in pain and someone should probably check on him.
So President Trump has acknowledged that the Epstein files exist here. President Trump has acknowledged that the files were written and that there is something there. He says that they were written, however, by his enemies and therefore will not be released. Whoa, what? That's new in this entire zeitgeist. This is something that is wildly interesting. And then he goes all in on supporting Kash Patel and Pam Bondi. No mention of Dan Bongino, where all of this, again, sort of transpired.
It's like, whoa, what? Like, what is, it's like how do you square it's like the peg and there's like a hole and it just says, it's fascinating watching these guys try their best to avoid the most obvious conclusion imaginable. And I'm going to be honest, I think this is called stalling, because this group of influencers tends to eventually rally around the same talking points. But when something like this whole Epstein thing happens, there's not yet any established talking points. So they just kind of have to vamp. So you have Benny Johnson going like, well, I don't, this is what, basically is going, what do you guys think about this? Because they don't have any real opinions. And that irks me a little bit. But you know what irks me even more is the way Benny Johnson says the word written. I just don't like it. Speaking of things I don't like, here is Candace Owens, who believes that NASA is satanic, doing her best to summon Captain Obvious.
What is happening now is it seems like you think your base is stupid. That's how I feel. I feel like Trump thinks his base is stupid, or again, because I don't think he's pressing send on these messages, the people around him certainly think that Trump is stupid.
I mean, I can't speak for what Trump thinks of his base. For all I know, Trump recognizes that his base is just fed up with establishment politics and also distrusts government as a result of years of propaganda, as well as the material failures of neoliberalism. And he plays on those emotions without ever offering an actual social safety net and chooses instead to line his pockets as well as the pockets of his friends. But maybe he thinks they're dumb. I don't know. And I don't really care. What I find interesting is how Candace Owens' brain cannot help but go toward a conspiracy theory. It's like a magnet. Like she can't, it's just like, I don't even think that makes sense either. Like Candace, so you're telling me you think that someone read that post from Donald Trump, that absolutely unhinged post from Donald Trump, and clicked send? Why? What would be their motivation? I don't even like Trump. And if I read that post, I would be like, you shouldn't post that because it makes you sound incredibly guilty. But maybe I'm misreading it. So let's do a quick refresher on people from Trump's own camp calling for him to release the Epstein files.
Please do not let that story go.
Who has Jeffrey Epstein's
Black Book?
Black Book?
FBI.
But who? That is, I mean, there's...
that's under direct control of the director of the FBI.
What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list? Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there, because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would.
This isn't about Epstein or 9/11 or JFK or RFK. It is, but it isn't. It's about a bigger thing. If you're lying about that, you're lying about everything. Who's on the Epstein tapes, folks? Who's on those tapes? Who's in those black books? Why have they been hiding it?
And this is something Donald Trump has talked about. The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump.
Everything's going to come out to the public. The public has a right to know. Americans have a right to know.
Isn't it kind of odd how Trump threw in that incredibly specific disclaimer in there about the Epstein files? Like, when else has he ever been like, whoa, 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 we don't want to go around, falsely accusing people of crimes? That's not a rhetorical question. I'm actually genuinely asking for any other time Trump has been like, come on, guys, we need to exercise a little caution. But it is fun to watch his supporters and how self-assured they were and how confident they were before they realized that their king might be incriminated in the very thing that they were calling to be exposed. It's like watching an in memoriam, but for brain cells. Speaking of brain cells, let's listen to Tucker Carlson, who has something to say that yeah, I agree with it. I do.
I guess they're just so dumb. They didn't realize that if you tell everybody you have the tapes of these crimes and then you issue a memo saying you're not going to prosecute anybody for the crimes, what are you saying? I'm covering up for the perpetrators of these crimes. Duh. They have no one with an IQ over 80 over there to read the memos? Are you kidding?
Yeah, I am also incredibly curious about what the decision-making process was behind just going, yeah, there's no Epstein files. Like, I really, really want to know, because it does seem like a pretty stupid thing to do. In fact, I think when I die, I'm going to ask Jesus 3 things. I'm going to be like, are there aliens? And then can I see my corgi from when I was growing up? And then I'm going to be like, you got to tell me what was going on with Epstein, specifically that, post he made on Truth Social. And then Jesus is going to be like, oh, yeah, I get that all the time. In fact, let me bring over Captain Obvious. And I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, Captain Obvious, you're here in heaven. And then he's going to be like, yeah, I've been here for a while. And then we're all going to laugh. And it's going to be a lot of fun. Speaking of people who are experiencing joy, I give you the Democrats.
President Trump promised to end the wars. He promised to release the Epstein files. Did anyone really think the sexual predator president who used to party with Jeffrey Epstein was going to release the Epstein files?
Got him. And of course, John Ossoff is echoing what AOC also tweeted. So it is nice to see the Democrats doing some good politics and not looking a gift horse in the mouth. And continuing that trend is former Senator McCaskill offering a statistic that's just kind of nice to think about. It's a little surprising, just something to kind of keep in mind when all of this is playing out.
I'm saying he was close to the fire. He was, and somebody said over the weekend, there are more pictures of Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein than there are trans athletes in the NCAA by multiples. So the bottom line is he wants this to go away now.
Yeah, when you consider that, it starts to become pretty clear that this administration is operating less off of principle and more off of emotions, particularly big emotions like bigotry. But that can't be right. I mean, these are intellectual powerhouses after all, right? I mean, sure, Benny is baffled and Candace is conspiratorial. So who among them will face this big situation and really sink their teeth into, wait a minute, teeth, big face? Has anybody checked on Charlie Kirk?
Honestly, I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands. I've said plenty this last weekend. So if you guys want to see my commentary on it, that's fine.
Fun fact about Charlie Kirk, he's a loser. Now, I don't know if Trump considers his base to be stupid. And again, I really don't care. What I do think is that these right-wing media influencers might be protesting a little much. I definitely don't think they respect their audiences. Whether it's Benny, who's just stalling, or Candace, who's just throwing things at the wall to see what sticks, or Kirk doing what he does, I think they're just playing their audience all the time. And I used to think it was really straightforward. I used to think they just echoed what their audience already believe. But I think it's a little bit more complicated than that, and maybe even a little bit more sinister. I think they just throw out inflammatory ideas, and then they use their real-time social media metrics to see what is gaining the most traction. They then take those ideas that got the most traction, and then they repackage them as though they're original thoughts of their own, when actually they're not. And then their audience watches them and goes, oh, this is what this person thinks, so I happen to agree with that, and I'm going to continue watching that. When they do, it gives these influencers more money and more access to power, which ultimately is what they want. It's just unfortunate that they have to look like such dorks the entire time. Sorry, not unfortunate. It's hilarious. And I hope it continues to happen. And I hope it continues to crumble because it's so transparent what they're doing right now. I just hope their audience starts to kind of figure it out. I don't know. Maybe they will. We'll see. Time will tell. Tell me what you think, and I'll see you next time.